I'll be honest, I'm disappointed but not surprised because what I have inside this box is yet another TechCraft football boot from Nike that I'm not sure anybody really wanted, but it exists, so I might as well review it. And of course, I'm talking about the TechCraft variation of the Nike Phantom GT Elite, which is effectively a Phantom GT Elite with kangaroo leather on the surface of the upper and embossed ACC. Now, while I've already sort of spoiled my opinion on these, I still think they're solid boots, and they do incorporate some really interesting design elements to make way for the kangaroo leather on the surface of the upper. So I want to go over all of those details in today's video, as well as compare them to the regular Flyknit variation of the Phantom GT to hopefully help you determine which one would be the better option for you specifically, as well as of course take a look at the fit and feel on feet. So if you're interested in learning more, please stick around and watch the entire review. And if you're interested in a pair of these for yourself, I'll leave a little pop-up on screen, or you can click the first link down below. That's going to take you to the review page on my website, where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes, where you'll be able to pick these up below their normal $260 retail price. Which, by the way, is a $10 premium over the regular low-cut version of the Phantom GT, something we didn't see for whatever reason with the TechCraft Vapor. Also, if you guys do end up enjoying this video, please don't forget to support it with a like. And if you are new here watching for the first time and don't want to miss out on weekly content on everything football boots, make sure you hit that subscribe button. As far as extras go, despite this being a special variant of the Phantom GT, it does come in the regular gray and black top-end Nike box, and then inside that box, they also include a string bag, which is pretty generic for the TechCraft pack. You get the same one with the Vapors, and I'm assuming with the Tiempos as well. It's not made from the normal material. Instead, it's kind of like this soft microfiber. It's actually really nice, black in color with black strings, has the Nike TechCraft logo on the front, nothing on the back, and still maintains the little zipper pocket there on the inside. Decent string bag overall. It gets a rating of 47 out of 63.3. First things first, and this has nothing to do with performance, I'd also be curious to hear your opinions on this, but I happen to think that this is a very kind of awkward looking football boot. I know a lot of people don't like the standard graphics of the Phantom GT. They're growing on me. I like them a lot more now than I did on launch day. But this colorway, without the stripe, being mostly black with just some subtle white accents, the etched in Nike swoosh is a cool little detail. But in general, the boot just looks very awkward in terms of its overall design. I like the incorporation of the big Nike branding on the back. The colorway as a whole is kind of taking inspiration from the '94 World Cup Tiempos, which is why you have this kind of orangey yellow color on the sole plate, which looks quite cool. But the design of the upper being mostly black with just some subtle white details, I don't know, it just looks weird to me. As for the performance side of things, like I've talked about in the past, with a couple of exceptions, I haven't been crazy about most of the TechCraft boots from Nike, mainly because a lot of them end up feeling like afterthoughts, and I don't want to call Nike lazy in certain instances, but in a lot of cases, it kind of seems like they just take the pre-existing upper and they slap some leather on top and call it a day. That is kind of what they've done here, but there's actually an extra level of effort and detail that I'm pretty impressed with. Unfortunately, I just don't think it worked out in terms of making for a better product, or at least an equally good variant of the Phantom GT when compared to the regular model. Now, it's pretty clear to see what they've done here. You have a Flyknit base as you normally would on a Phantom GT. What is gone is the GT part of the name, which of course is the Generative Texture. Instead, you can see it says TC for Phantom TechCraft. So I guess technically this is a Phantom TC, not a Phantom GT, but that's way too confusing. We're going to completely ignore that side of things. And then of course on the surface of this Flyknit upper, you can see the seam right here on the lateral side of the forefoot, running all the way through the forefoot and toe box area, and then cutting off at this point here on the medial side. That is where you'll find some very thin, really nice feeling kangaroo leather material that is completely smooth on the surface. The only modification is of course ACC, which the branding is as clear as day. Now, aside from the leather on the surface and the lack of texturing, the main difference you're going to find with this upper is what they've done internally to reinforce the boot, where they tried to do something that is more along the lines of a traditional leather boot, like they did with the 2020 TechCraft Vapor 13, which just had a regular nylon liner. This actually has something a little bit more technical, and inside it's kind of dark, but if I grab my flashlight really quickly, you can hopefully see, you can actually see the Flyknit base, and then on the underside of that, you have a nylon liner that actually has all of these little holes cut out. So it's kind of like a webbed nylon liner, which is actually a pretty cool way of doing things. It's adding that little bit of extra structure, where normally on the regular knitted version of the Phantom GT, you actually have a synthetic kind of plasticky type material as a reinforcement, very similar to the regular version of the Vapor. The logic of the nylon is that it's a little bit less stiff and a little bit less rigid, so technically you lose out on structure, but the trade-off is that you're going to end up with more of the feel of softness from the leather that's of course sitting on top of that Flyknit base. Unfortunately, and somewhat unexpectedly, this boot ends up feeling stiffer when it comes to the upper versus the regular version of the Phantom GT. And while I can't say I don't know 100% why they feel more stiff, I do have a theory, and what I've concluded is that the leather on the surface is not actually glued directly to the Flyknit on the underside. So if you kind of put your fingers inside of the boot and you move the liner around along with the leather, you'll find that there are two separate layers that can kind of glide independently of each other. So what I think is happening is you actually end up with the Flyknit in the areas with the leather that of course is going to lose all of its flexibility at these joints right here and here. It just ends up kind of separating the Flyknit upper into two pieces, where you have the structured area at the midfoot that doesn't really matter, and then of course the part through the forefoot, which you're going to be noticing a lot. It's going to do a lot of flexing, and you just end up with this kind of a situation where you have the Flyknit and the leather kind of fighting against each other in terms of flexing with your foot. And it just ends up feeling bulkier, it ends up feeling stiffer, and honestly, it doesn't feel very natural when compared to the regular version of the Phantom GT, despite this Kangaroo leather being so soft and thin. And then when it comes to touch, it's just one of those boots that doesn't feel very special. I think the reason why you buy a TechCraft version of the Phantom GT is to have the sensation of leather, but what you ultimately end up with here, especially when compared to the regular Phantom GT, is an upper that feels twice as thick, loses out on the added grip from the generative texture, and it just kind of feels like solid material. I don't know how to describe it other than the fact that this is not an upper that feels like soft leather at all. So why you would pick this over a regular Phantom GT, or why you would pick this if you're after a leather boot over other leather football boots that are out there, like the Puma King Platinum, or even the TechCraft version of the Vapor 13. Those are two examples of two boots that kind of fit into this particular category that just offer a much better leather touch and feel experience. Other than that, pretty much everything else is physically the same as a regular low-cut Phantom GT Elite. You're going to find that, of course, it does maintain the off-centered lacing system, which again, I don't think works very well with the movement and flexibility of this upper, just feeling stiffer in general. It makes the boot feel less comfortable rather than more comfortable, which I think is what people would expect from something with a soft Kangaroo leather upper. Obviously a low-cut design. There is a mid-cut version of the Phantom GT, but not in the TechCraft variation. Internally, the heel liner is this soft synthetic suede kind of microfiber material, decent amount of padding, very similar to what you're going to find from the Mercurial series. Then the insole, fully removable. It does feature the Phantom GT TechCraft logo, which is pretty cool, should be on the string bag. It features a soft kind of mesh liner on the surface, and then it's made from a single layer of this yellow foam with some harder white foam through the middle that matches the pattern that you find on the base of the sole plate to lock it in place, preventing it from sliding around. Moving to the base, you're going to find their new Hyper Quick system, which effectively boils down to a watered down variation of what you find on the Mercurial series right now, where it's still kind of a split sole. You can see there is some exposed material through the middle of the foot. Keep in mind that that little section is actually a synthetic leather rather than a natural leather for the sake of durability, which is actually a good call by Nike. And then you're going to find that you have a stud plate in the forefoot, a stud plate in the heel, and then this kind of connection point running through the middle, which is basically where the stiffener bar is. In comparison to the Mercs, this is a lot more flexible and I guess moves with your foot more naturally, but it doesn't feel quite as responsive. So that's the one trade-off that you're going to get here. And then there's obviously a focus on agility with the Phantom GT, where you'll notice that the studs positioning is pretty similar to the Mercurials, and you do have some aggressive kind of bladed chevron studs closer to the tip of the toe, but you can see there's also these kind of split in two and then slid in opposite direction conical studs that aren't as aggressive as the normal blades. You have them in the heel as well as the forefoot. They're there to prioritize these rotational movements once your foot is planted, but in general, it still feels very aggressive, just not quite to the same extreme as what the Mercurial series has on offer. And then when it comes to weight, I will say that I do think the TechCraft version of the Phantom GT does feel a little bit heavier, but the reality is the weight difference isn't that significant. In a size 9.5 US, you'll find that the TechCraft version of the Phantom GT weighs in at 8.4 ounces, the equivalent of 239 grams, which is a weight difference of about 0.8 ounces, 20 grams or so. Nothing crazy, but I think there is a noticeable weight difference between these and the regular version of the Phantom GT. Although for me, the most noticeable difference is just going to be the way they feel and move with your feet in general, where these just feel bulkier and stiffer. So as you can see, I've swapped out the stock black laces for some bright tangerine reflective SR4U replacement laces, which are a perfect match for this orangey yellow accent color that you have in the sole plate and the heel liner. I also feel like it breaks up the blockiness of this particular colorway quite a bit and just makes it look that much better. It's also a great way of changing up the style of your boots in a very inexpensive way. So if you're interested in some replacement laces for yourself, the website to go to is www.sr4ulaces.com. There'll be a little pop-up on screen as well as a link down below in the description. So if you're interested in some for yourself, be sure to go ahead and check that out. On feet is really where I think the TechCraft Phantom GT is most disappointing, in that with a TechCraft boot, especially something that implements a Kangaroo leather upper, I would truly anticipate the boot to feel not only a little bit more padded versus a regular Phantom GT, but also just softer in general. And that is not at all the case here whatsoever. Because of the way it's constructed, like I explained earlier in the video, it just feels stiffer. And when you bend your foot, it just doesn't want to bend. I don't know why, and obviously as you break them in, the leather does soften up ever so slightly and that improves, but in general, it just ends up feeling less natural than the regular Flyknit version of the Phantom GT, which of course just has one less extra layer of material and a different liner altogether. So there's really no benefit from a comfort perspective to the TechCraft version of the Phantom GT. If anything, it just feels bulkier and stiffer, which I don't personally view as a good thing whatsoever, but I guess if you wanted some added protection, there is the benefit of that extra layer of material. As far as fit is concerned, it's a little bit more tight feeling in comparison to the regular Phantom GT because of the stiffer feel to the upper. So there's a little bit less volume and width through the forefoot and toe box area, I would say. But as you break them in, it ends up feeling relatively similar, and they're gonna have enough width for pretty much anybody. It's a very wide-fitting boot in general. That's kind of what they did with the Phantom GT, is they took the Mercurial Vapor and Superfly and just made it a little bit wider overall. So they're definitely gonna fit most people in terms of overall width. And then as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing these in my usual size 9.5 US, and the fit and the length is perfect. So if you're looking to order a pair for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. So in conclusion, can I recommend the TechCraft version of the Phantom GT? And while I'm not a huge fan of the boots, I can't say outright no, I wouldn't recommend them, because I think they're still solid boots. There are going to be people that buy them and really end up enjoying them and probably leave an angry comment down below in the comment section of this video. But with that said, having tried this boot along with the regular Phantom GT, I think the regular version is just better. It's more flexible, it feels more natural, it's certainly more comfortable, and I think that's kind of what you would expect from the added leather of a TechCraft variation, but unfortunately you just don't get it. And I think if you're after a leather football boot in general, there are way better options, and if you're just into the whole TechCraft thing, you'd be much better off with the TechCraft Vapor 13 over the TechCraft Phantom GT. It's just a significantly better football boot that feels significantly better on your feet as well. So for me, it's kind of an oddball football boot. It's certainly not for everybody. I don't think it's gonna be overly popular. And while I think the ideas Nike incorporated with the liner and the way that they incorporated the leather in general was a pretty good idea, it just didn't work out. Anyways, guys, that's it for my review. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to support it with a like. Again, if you're interested in a pair of these for yourself, you can click the first link down below. That's gonna take you to the review page on my website, where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes, where you'll be able to pick these up below their normal $260 retail price. If you have any questions, as always, leave them down below in the comment section, and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, make sure you hit that that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. You can find all my social media information linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.